morning. Viewpoint, the program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. This morning, we'll be bereft of two of those.
Do you mean to tell me I have to be a personality, a politician, and have a perspective?
Honey, you'll
all
never
by myself?
You'll never make a good politician. You're just too damn basically honest. So
yeah, really.
Well, at this point in time, we're bereft of personalities, but they're forthcoming. I think the ladies think that they forgot the fact that the clock switched. You know, we're back on standard time, not daylight time, but they'll be here very shortly. I'll take a couple of Minnesota kudos.
Yeah, please.
Thanksgiving meals at Gazzardo's, sir.
Oh, gosh, yes.
How many, 25 or so years that John Gazzardo and his family have been doing this. It's a wonderful community service. I just can't raise my hat high enough in respect to John and Frankie and Nick. They just do a whale of a job. And I forgot the daughter in there. Doggone it. Can't remember. Well, that's what happens, old age. Anyway, seriously, that's a wonderful community service, and we collectively here at WLCN doff our bonnets to the Gazzardo family for that. Next Sunday, that will be December 7th. Does that resonate with anybody out there? Judith K?
Yes.
What day is it?
That is Pearl Harbor Day. Have you been to the memorial?
Yeah.
Oh gosh!
Yes, I have.
What do we have in
something
here?
flying around here. It's okay.
No, it's not okay. I don't like things flying around. We've already established that.
Yes. To answer your question, yes, I've been to the Punch Bowl and the Arizona Memorial. That's a very sobering experience to stand there.
That's what I understand.
Very sobering experience. I had the good fortune, in quotes, to be there at the same time a bunch of folks from Japan were there, and I found that very interesting to watch. I stood by and observed them and watched their demeanor and so forth and their interaction with one another. It was very interesting.
Could you just elaborate just a titch on that, please?
What there?
You say that their demeanor was very interesting,
well,
please.
Yes. I got the impression that some of them were a little proud of what they'd done. Others didn't seem to be. It's pretty hard to read people by just standing off 15 feet and watching. But I found it interesting from my side of the perspective. And
it's safe to say, though, don't you suppose, that very few of the people you would have seen there would have been there as soldiers. The people from Japan I'm talking about.
Do you know to this day they have after they close that memorial of an evening, at certain times they will have services where a shipmate of the fellows who are down there in the Arizona has died and expressed a desire to be buried with his shipmates, and they have a memorial service there, and they go ahead and a special diver takes the ashes down and stashes them away certain places down there for perpetuity. And that's pretty
I can
interesting.
Understand that, though.
What a neat thing that is, yes.
I think it's very neat.
Which reminds me, we have that movie coming out very soon, Unbroken. Do you know the story of that?
No, sir. I'm sorry.
Lou Zamperini was a track star and an Olympian, and Lou, he must have had a difficult childhood, but it's kind of an interesting part that how he grew up and what a rascal he was. And in any event, he was in a bomber that was shot down and or lost its oil and crashed. I've forgotten which. I think that was what it was. It was a malfunction as opposed to the enemy action. But in any event, they drifted on that Pacific Sea longer than Eddie Rickenbacker. An incredible story of being able to survive that long. And wouldn't you know, when they got picked up by the Japanese. And it went downhill from there. Very much downhill. He was subjected to a lot of physical torture and so forth. the bottom line is he survived it, and the Unbroken is a really apt title. And he just died here within this fall, and a very, very interesting story. Another story that I just finished reading is called Fly Boys, and that's about 8 boys who were shot down over the in the area around Iwo Jima and picked up by the Japanese. The 9th was shot down was George H.W., our 41st president.
Yes.
Happily for him, the submarine came along and rescued him. The rest of the boys didn't fare very well. They ended up being beheaded at various times, and it's a very cruel book, but a very enlightening book. And,
War at any place in this world is a very cruel thing. What's that old song about ain't going to study war no more?
Yeah, ain't going to study it.
But we keep studying it and keep studying it, and when will we ever learn?
Well, of course, the whole thing is the politics involved in it, which brings to another story. I happened to see it last night. Did you happen to catch that, Jim, by chance? It was called The Candy Bomber. It was on PBS, and if you'll recall, that due to the politics and so forth, that Berlin was actually isolated and surrounded by the Russians. And at one point in time, they decided to enact a blockade wherein no ground traffic could get in or out of Berlin, and the people were starving. And it was a serious problem. And somebody devised the idea of flying these supplies in, and it was a marvelous record in aviation that they flew tons and tons and tons and tons of materials into Tempelhof and Rhine-Main, I think, also. No, I forgot. Anyway, they flew into the airports at Berlin, and this one lieutenant at the time, a pilot, distributed some. The kids would come and gather around the fence, and so he gave them some gum, and he got the idea that he could drop gum to them and candy to them as they flew in, and they created some parachutes with handkerchiefs and so forth, and tied these things up.
Is that right?
And dropped them in as they were making their approach, and then it got word up to the upper command. And he was afraid he was in deep trouble, but the word had gotten back to the state somehow, and it was approved. And he continued to work to bring in all these supplies, and it was a remarkable experience for them to have. So, oh, there comes a kitty cat.
I'm sorry.
Kitty.
Why didn't you give me a hand signal or something? I could do that.
In any event, as I always say, it's the difference that makes the difference, and one person makes the difference. This pilot, from his dropping early on, the cat wants out again.
Why don't we have 6 cats?
This one fellow made the difference by starting to drop these little sacks of candy and so forth, and it went exponentially from there. And he had all his fellow pilots and crewmen and so forth making up these packages before they would fly. And the bottom line is they just dropped thousands of these things before it was all said and done. Again, the difference that makes a difference. One individual made a difference by taking some direct action. So I've monopolized this too much.
But that's okay. That's okay. You're doing just fine, and it's good to hear some humanitarian behavior on the part of some in the midst of all the horror. You know,
I said that it's the difference that makes the difference.
The powers that be declare the war, and then the young go.
A minute. He makes the difference in this community by doing what he does.
He most definitely does. He definitely does.
So, one person.
John and Frankie are very special people.
Well, one person making the effort like that, and it kind of generates, and the next thing you know, it kind of grows a little bit. And, some of the churches in the community do extra for the holiday time, which is a neat thing. Larry Crawford's group at Open Arms served almost 500
Turkey
people
dinner?
that
Yes.
Thanksgiving deal, which is
Wasn't that
remarkable.
something?
Yeah, I thought so. Well, in any event, I think back to an experience I had, and when I had a reunion with some folks over in Paris. I had known them in 1945 when I left there, and 50 years later I realized I was going back, and I wrote the French Bureau of Tourism, and the only thing I had for them was the maiden names of the two ladies, the sisters, and where they lived in 1945.
Oh, my.
Because an individual in that French Bureau of Tourism decided to work on this. Within 3 weeks' time, I had those girls' married names, their phone numbers, and their addresses. All because somebody... Now, you write the average clerk in an operation like French Bureau of Tourism or any large operation like that would get a letter like that, and they look at that, 50 years? No way. And drop it in the wastebasket.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
But how exciting for you to be able to see them again.
It was a real thrill. And by the way, there was a champagne bottler by the name of Gossett with one T.
Oh.
And when we got there, they had a bottle of champagne with my name on it sitting in the middle of the table.
Is that right?
And we met the fellow, by the way, who bottled who had this French winery. We took a little tour down in the French wine country, and met the fellow who bottled a Gossett champagne. And I'm too cheap to buy a bottle of it, sitting on the table across the garage at about $100 a bottle. So, and I'm too cheap to do that. So,
well, that's an awful lot for something for a consumable that's going to be gone pretty quick.
Oh yeah, that's astronomical in my book. But you know, there are people out there that's nothing.
And I say good for them.
Yeah, happy for them. But in any event,
I give mine to
one
like
person.
Amarin or somebody, you know.
One person can make a difference, and I think we all should remember that. Each of us in their own way can make a modest contribution, whatever it is, to our community, and hope when we get out of here, we've left something a little better than when we came in.
That's supposed to be our goal.
Well, sometimes they don't do it, but at least we wouldn't be like the famous Mark Twain quote. He said, why do you sit there looking like an envelope without any address on it?
That'd be the deer in the headlights look, I bet.
Some wag says, I got to see who this was. Mae West. Not many people know the name Mae West.
Oh, really?
She said his mother should have thrown him away and kept a stork.
I like that. Here, this is good.
Oh, yeah. A fellow named Andrew Lang. I'm not sure who Andrew was, but he says he uses statistics and a drunken man uses lamppost for support rather than illumination.
Right.
There's something to be said for that. And another one, Forrest Tucker. Remember him? The music man?
Yeah.
He says he loves nature in spite of what it did to him.
There's a left-hander for you.
and another quote says, I feel so miserable without you, it's almost like having you here. And this rings true. He's a self-made man and worships his creator.
Yeah. Well, I think we've all known people like that, haven't we?
648-5510. Somebody want to come in and make a comment before we... the girls are running around. Their GPS is obviously not working, and they're desperately trying to get here. I think they're circling overhead as I
think so. I hope they get back before Sunday. That's when the home tour is.
All right. Come up with another quote. Irwin S. Cobb says, I just learned about his illness. I hope it's nothing trivial.
Oh, ooh. I think whoever he's talking about ought to find new friends.
Yeah, and under quotes, Groucho Marx said, "I had a perfectly wonderful evening, but this wasn't it."
If you said that to your hostess, you wouldn't be invited back, would you?
And a member of Congress, a member of the Disraelis, said, "Sir, you'll either die on the gallows of some unspeakable disease. Or, that depends, sir," said Disraeli, "whether I embrace your policies or your mistress." There's something to be said for that, I guess. He had delusions of adequacy. All right. Let's discuss just for a minute here the fact that the other day I walked into a store and the Salvation Army kettle was out there. And it disturbs me no end, ladies and gentlemen out there, that some stores have the policy they won't let Salvation Army put their kettles in the corridor and make them stand out in the cold. I don't quite understand that.
Well, I'll tell you the rationale that I've been given for that.
Well, see if you can convince me.
Well, no, this is... I say no because it doesn't convince me, and therefore I can't imagine it convincing you. However, the deal is that if they let the Salvation Army in their vestibule, they have to let everybody in there. Well, now, just a minute. Just because I let Jim in my house doesn't mean I'm going to let you in my house.
Well, that goes figure.
If it's their building, they can say who they're going to let in. I would suspect.
Yes. Well, I don't know. I don't buy that analogy at all.
No, neither do I. But that's the rationale I've been given.
We need to remember what the Salvation is.
I'm good, plenty fine. Thank you.
We need to remember what they're about and why they're there. These folks, number one, it's hard to get ringers. It's really hard to get somebody to stand out there. Service organizations, churches, and so forth, and they're the people who provide the folks that stand out there in the cold and stomp their feet. I just can't understand where the policy, why they would say you can't do that.
Most of their budget comes from this Christmas kettle.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Well, let's do it then.
Okay. You want to take a commercial break? And right back live in the studios here. The program is Viewpoint. I'm happy to announce that the GPS system worked in for our ladies, and they're now present. And without further ado, I'm going to ask Mrs. Busby to introduce our guests.
Yes. Sue Beaver and Judy Rader are members of the Lincoln Women's Club, and they are having a home tour Sunday next, as a matter of fact, from 1 to 5. And it's going to be a very nice affair. If you don't have your ticket yet, I'm sure that they're still available. And I think it would be well to explore what you do with your funds, because I know you do community projects, and also the homes that people will be able to see. Okay. So, Judy, why don't you go? Sue, would you like to start?
The Women's Club, of course, is a volunteer organization. We encourage our people to follow their interest, and some of the funds that will be used for scholarships promote our students at the high school in technology and the fine arts. Along with the GFWC, we are local, state, and federal. So we have other funds that we contribute to. We couldn't do this on our own. But the gals who had done the home tour, some of the money they're going to use will be going to Sojourn, which is a women's crisis center. We support our reading program at the local library, and we support Salvation Army here in town.
We were just talking about them.
Right. We heard you when we were coming up. Anyway.
And Sojourn was our guest last week.
Oh,
so
good.
Those who are listening would be acquainted with the need for something like that.
Yes, this is one of our big projects we do. We do a lot of things for the veterans. We just sent a large donation of goods to the veteran hospitals for Christmas gifts, along with the Legion. They take care of that for us, what we collect. And then the Salvation Army, of course, will be the December fundraiser for our group, and we donate to them every year.
Good.
So we support a lot of things in the community. The high school choir comes. We donate to their program, Lincoln College Music Program, Lambs, the Senior Center. Reading is fundamental.
Good.
The Heifer Foundation, the Humane Society, the local Humane Society.
Goodness.
There's so many different things that we contribute to. It's hard to I take up your whole program, I think. So.
Do you have any idea
this
the number?
points to making a difference, you know?
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Do you have any idea the number of members that you have here?
We have 79 dues-paying members.
Well,
at
then
this
they're
time.
busy, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Very busy. A lot of them go to the hospital and do a lot of volunteer work there. We don't tell the ladies what they should volunteer for. They follow their interest. And we are so pleased with our new members, Judy, Rader, and some of the gals who were in juniors, which is now defunct. And they have come into the Women's Club and have really, really stepped up to the plate.
Well, she's a kid herself. And it's,
Yes,
you know,
she is.
She and her contemporary. What would the ages be approximately in your
Oh,
group,
gosh,
in your
ladies'
79?
ages.
You know, we'll
You're
put
not
Sue at
supposed
the
to ask
top.
ladies.
With
Oh,
all,
no.
With all
Ruth-
respect. But
right.
then and coming down in, would you pick up some in your early 20s?
Sure. Yes,
Not likely.
we welcome all ages. We have some in their 90s who are still very active. And I'm not sure what our youngest age would be, I suppose.
No, I would say probably our average age is probably in the 50s.
Probably.
Because we meet
Yeah.
during the day.
We meet during the day,
Working
so-
women aren't always available.
You know,
Well, no.
Excuse me, honey.
You,
Go right
you
ahead.
have to retire, and I do definitely recommend retirement. I've found that it's a nice thing.
I've never
Amen.
looked back.
Go ahead.
I keep interrupting you. You say what you want to say, please.
Well, I was just going to comment, you know, that your building has a storied history.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
It's an amazing thing that people would not realize that at one time was a Jewish temple.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, that was what was built for.
Yes. It was built in 1912.
Think of that.
And we bought the building. The Women's Club was able to buy the building in 1927. Women's Club started in 1896. And we have the yearbooks clear back to
Have you?
1896.
How
So-
fun.
You know,
How
what I
fun. It is
remember that
fun.
building for is the women's club at that time, when I was a kid in high school, they would have dances there.
Yes.
And boy, they packed them in.
Yes.
And it was crowded. As my dear departed Phil Harrison used to say, it was a real belly rub.
Right. Naval
But,
maneuvers.
you know, the ladies in the community thought that would be a good thing for the youth, and it was a nice.
Yes,
They'd
it
hire
was.
a band. I think they probably had to pay them all $75 or something like that.
Yeah.
And they'd put that little bitty platform up at the east end of the building.
Right.
And they'd pack them in.
My friends and I wallpapered that little platform you're talking about up there 100 years ago. I know you've been working to save that building because, as you say, it's not a brand new building, and I think all three of us in here can attest to the fact that it does take a bunch of upkeep when you have an older building.
Yes, it does.
Well, we got this tour coming up, and that's one of a fundraiser for you. How much are the tickets, and how many houses do we have available for folks to come in and ogle and say ooh and ah about? Go right ahead, Judy.
I can tell you about that. The tour is this coming Sunday, December 7th. It is from 1 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And tickets in advance are $8. You may get them from any Women's Club member. They're also for sale at MKS Jewelry Store and at Townhouse Beauty Shop downtown. We also have a couple gals that are going to set up a booth at the Carroll Catholic Bazaar this weekend, which
good.
is Sunday morning. And so if you're, it's at the last minute. If you're waiting to check out the weather, you can always get your ticket at the Carroll Bazaar in the morning.
You know, the neat thing about it is the weather prediction is, you know, you've had these days for a number of years now, and inevitably we get some terrible weather when the folks have, and these nice people who open up their homes and do a lot of work getting it ready. I'm sure that we'd all say, honestly, that no home is prepared without a little advance notice. But they work hard, and suddenly we have inclement weather, and we track things. Now, let's just address that for a minute. That's happened in the past.
We're not going to have inclement weather, Bill.
No, I know.
That's
I
not
know.
an option.
This is going to be a great weekend. It's going to be a great weekend. But in the past, when you've had, and I realized, I've been told that you lay down vinyl mats and so forth, and hope for the best.
We have done that before. This is a project that Lincoln Junior Women's Club, the Tour of Homes, did it for years, did it every other year. And so Women's Club is taking up the banner and taking over. And at one time,
this began with the Junior Women's Club.
Junior
I did not
did
realize
it starting back in, well, I have programs from the 70s, so I know they had started doing it way back in the 1970s. And there was a time that we would line the walkways with plastic, and we do not do that anymore. We found that that was slippery. To fasten it down required a tape, and that wasn't always good for carpet. And so now what we do is we do ask visitors to remove their shoes. Some people come and prepared with slippers. Some people just go in their sock feet. We have a limited number of hospital foot covers that can go over your shoes.
Okay, you're prepared.
So we're ready for it, but it's going to be a beautiful day. I've been watching it. The weather every couple hours. It's like that.
You might recount for the folks out there in Etherland, whose homes are available for a tour?
We have beautiful homes, and I have to tell you,
some great old homes.
This tour just fell into place. 2 of these homes contacted us and said, "What do we need to do to get on a tour of homes?"
Oh, really? How nice!
It's been a wonderful, wonderful experience putting it together. And as Bill said, the homes are all in the older part of Lincoln. We like to refer to it as the Silk Stocking District because it was the wealthy area of Lincoln back in the day.
Let's emphasize that back in the day.
Back in the day, I kind of think Mr. Gossett might live next door to one of these houses, so he's in our neighborhood too. The houses that are included are Tom and Sharon Hickman's home at 110 Peoria Street, Tom and Kim Quinn, who lives at 504 Tremont Street, Dale and Pam Ridgway, 227 11th Street, Terry and Karen Sager, who are at 227 Pekin Street, and Brenda Solano, who is at 445 North Union. They're on the corner of Park Place and Union. In a perfect world and a perfect day, you could park your car once and walk to all of these homes. But we'll see what the temperature is and
Could be nice.
how fast you move. So, but they are all pretty much in the same area of Lincoln.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting that I was just totally wrong about where people wanted to live. I thought everybody wanted to live out by Memorial Park and all those big new homes, you know. And a realtor was telling us just very recently that right now people seem to be looking for a home in this very area that's participating in your home tour. So
Some charming neighborhoods with big trees, and some of these homes are on brick streets. They have a lot of personality.
I think that's the operative word right there. Yes. Can you just tell us what the highlight is of each of these 5 homes?
Sure.
Well, I know there are lots of highlights, but just pick
for
one.
every home. I can't say one is my favorite because they are all so unique and so different and have something different to offer. If you've gone past Brenda Solano's house, which is the one on the corner of Union and Park Place, you'll see that she's had ladders against the outside of her house probably for 18 months now. They're really working on replacing and authentically replacing all of the fish scale shingles. She loves Victorian things, and she has really restored the home back to its Victorian highlight. She has Victorian furniture. She is a wonderful decorator. She's a teacher out at the high school, and she has done a really good job replacing spandrels inside the homes and different it just really made it a very unique yet still comfortable Victorian home.
1896 that house was built. That must have been one of the early ones in that neighborhood.
Yes, I imagine so. And she recently has redone her basement. She's a seamstress and makes quilts and does smocking. So she's got a sewing center set up in her basement and is going to be displaying some of the quilts she's done and children's clothes that she's smocked.
Beautiful.
So, and also Women's Club will also have a bake sale in her basement. So if you're hungry for a goodie that day, that would be a good spot to get your snack of the afternoon.
Good.
A charming house on the tour is Pam and Dale Ridgway. Years ago, this was Marguerite Berger's house for people who have lived in Lincoln for a long time. The people that purchased it from Marguerite's estate came in and truly gutted the house. It is a new home with an old exterior, but they've really preserved all the charm of the home. Something I find really interesting in that house, the kitchen has a tin ceiling, and they have painted it bright red.
Oh,
I love it. It's just a charming, charming home. Very comfortable. Another home that's been recently, well, in the last probably 10 years redone, is the Quinn home on Tremont Street. I remember walking past that house. It used to be a stucco house. It's on the corner of Ottawa and Tremont, and a local contractor purchased it and totally gutted the inside, added a new kitchen and family room on the back. There's very clever tray ceilings in the dining room and living room where they have disguised all the ductwork. It just looks like a beautiful architectural feature of the home, but it's hiding air conditioning ducts and wiring and whatever. And it's, again, it's an older home. Kim tells the story that one of Abraham Lincoln's friends, when Lincoln was in town to survey the town, kind of had the inside track that this might be an up-and-coming community, so purchased several blocks in that general area and kind of a spec home of the past, built a large home in every one of these blocks to be the cornerstone for that block and draw people to purchase the other lots to build their homes on. And this house, to our knowledge, is the only one that's left of one of those 1800s spec homes that were built right when the town was surveyed.
That was clever of him.
It was.
These Americans are something, weren't they?
And I don't know the name of it, but I bet Kim will know and will tell you on the tour. The Sager home is across the street from the First Presbyterian Church. It's a beautiful house on a brick street, big majestic trees in the yard. And again, these people have come in. It was a lovely older home that had been well maintained, but they've come in and really decorated and made every room very special. They're also Civil War collectors, and so they have one room that's dedicated to their interest in the Civil War. And they've done a beautiful job pulling this old home together.
Yeah, they've done a nice job on landscaping that particular home, too. I watched that kind of develop down through, I don't know how long those folks have had it, but they took some immediate proprietary interest in that house.
They do.
Or home.
And they have something interesting in their house called a coffin niche.
Would you please repeat that?
They have a coffin niche in their home. A coffin niche is an area underneath an open stairwell where in the old days the body would be displayed. And it's right inside their front door. it kind of is very indicative of what the 1800s home visitation would have been. And so they have like a hanging, I don't know if that's the right architectural word, but because it's an older home with a beautiful curved staircase, but under the staircase is an open area where coffins used to be displayed.
You brought to mind something that very, very few people would remember or know about, and that is that was a custom back then. The body would be brought to the home.
And their front
that
door,
was very, very common.
2 big, wide, open front doors. They have discovered in the basement the original doors to the home, as well as the original screen doors to the home, which they have put a glass in it, so it's now a storm door. It probably wasn't a storm door in the day, but they have replaced the original front doors to the home, which probably also helped get coffins in and out the door.
Sure.
Ladies, how do you go about recruiting homeowners to open up their house? That's it's not an imposition, really, in that sense of the word, but it requires a lot of extra thought and a lot of extra preparation. So you just don't say, oh, yeah, we're going to do that. Have to think about that. How do you recruit?
Well, in the past, it's been a tricky proposition, you are right, but this home tour has just fallen into place. As I mentioned earlier, 2 homeowners came to us and said, what do we need to do to be on your tour?
That's interesting.
It's wonderful. Another homeowner, in fact, it was Kim and Tom Quinn. I said, your house is beautiful. They've really preserved the atmosphere of an older home while making it new and comfortable. Would you consider having your home on a tour? And Kim said, oh, yeah, sure. And I kind of stepped back and said, that's a yes? Yeah, that's a yes. Okay.
You figured you'd have to give a sales speech, huh?
Yeah. And then the other 2 homes, I approached early in the summer and said, this is what we're doing later in the year. It's going to be in December. That's a long time away. Would you consider doing this? This is what it would entail. And they said, well, let's think about it and get back to you. And when we got back to them, they said, we've talked about it, and we'd love to do that. We think it's a great idea. So I think this might be an unusual year. In fact, we do this project every 2 years, and we have 2 homes that have said, we just aren't available this year. We can't do it this year. Could we be on your next one? So we already have 2 homes for the 2016 tour. So I hope this trend continues. It's been a very good experience pulling it together. And I have a wonderful committee who have great ideas, and when they say they're going to do things, they do it. There's a wonderful ad in today's newspaper that Donna Sauer and Carol Grunder are responsible for, and they got the signs out in the yard, and we just had very, very good people on the committee. So it's been a joy to do.
Well, and you're a heck of an organizer, I know.
It's easy,
so that
it's easy to
helps.
organize if you have
Mrs.
a good
Beaver
committee.
says that absolutely correct. In today's world, it's sad to say, but you need to be careful about who you let in your homes. And you have no way of knowing, but we just assume that the people who buy the tickets to go to these homes, we don't have to worry about that factor.
We would hope that's true. And we also have...
Well, you've never had an experience
We've
like
never
that.
had a problem.
No.
We have 60 members who are going to be hostesses in the home. So we have ladies stationed at various points to welcome people to the home, but also to make sure that things are taken care of.
Are all the people all decorated for Christmas, so we'll get to see that?
Yes, it is a Christmas tour of homes, and so
I think that makes it even extra fun. I've got my tickets,
good.
and thanks to Barbara Dahm, and I'm looking forward to it. I think, I don't know why you couldn't put as one of the places to get all the history together of the Women's Club building, because it's very unique and deserves to be recognized as such.
Well, that will be an excellent suggestion I will put in my notes for 2016.
Yeah, you think about that. About safe to say, a whole lot of people in this area have never been through those doors. And Judy may have hit upon a pretty decent idea there. For instance, not many people know there's a little balcony back there above the
There is, and a beautiful
entrance.
leaded glass window.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
yeah.
If you look at the building from the outside, it's something I had not noticed until someone else pointed it out, is it does have a Jewish Star of David
Yes.
on the peak of the front of the building.
For obvious reasons, right?
Right.
Yes.
It was a
Sue, you've
synagogue.
been involved with the Women's Club a long time, have you not?
Yes.
And you recently were president. I've forgotten now where the...
Yes,
Yes.
two presidents. Ruth Sloot is our president this year, and Barbara Dahm was the last 2 years, and I was before that. The history that we have is fascinating, what these women were able to accomplish. And they developed the Junior Women's Club, which at the beginning was for high school students.
Oh.
Did know
And
that.
then it evolved
either.
into
I
the
don't realize
young
it.
adults.
Yeah.
And part of their program that the high school kids did was to help burn all the stumps. Now, Bill, this must have been when the elm disease came through Lincoln in the 40s. I'm not
Oh,
sure
I'm
when
not
that
old enough to
happened.
remember that.
Oh, me. And then they also helped roll bandages for the Red Cross and different things like that. But evolved into the young adult women, and they met in the evening in the 50s. And so there, as you said, this would be a wonderful program to do the history of what these ladies started out doing. And have kept going for 87 years in the building.
Yeah, it's an amazing building. It really is.
Yes, it is.
And I
With
was
a
very
great
impressed. I knew you did have a lot of philanthropic causes, but until this morning, I really did not realize that the numbers involved there. You folks, I don't care how much it is per cause, you're out there on the line for a lot of great causes, and we, the community should appreciate that.
Yes, they say we're the best kept secret.
Well, it is, in fact.
Yeah, we do things as a group, but we also do a lot of things individually. So it's amazing. And you go back in history, the Chautauqua Bill, the Women's Club built a building there.
Yes, right. I know exactly where it was.
They were in charge of the parks when keeping the parks in shape.
Oh, really?
The entrances to Lincoln, they help decorate and make inviting, when you come from Pulaski, from Atlanta, et cetera, so forth. Just, things that you would not think of Women's Club doing. So, over the years, as you say, it would make a very interesting program.
Well, one thing you can't do is you can't stop the clock.
That's
And
true.
unfortunately, it's reached that page where we're going to have to terminate our conversation this morning. We appreciate Judy Rader and Sue Beaver being with us this morning, talking about the home tour for the Lincoln Women's Club. A great organization that drops a lot of dimes around the community. We appreciate that very, very much. We'll close with a remark about homes and Confucius. You remember him. That was Sam.
He was a neighbor of my friend's.
And
Yes.
Sam said the strength of a nation derives from the integrity of the home. Pretty
Very good.
profound statement.
Yes, it is.
Thank you for Viewpoint. Now I'm going to go out and wring a coffee out of my sleeve.